the feeling that I felt with him was there you are. And I felt like we had done this in every lifetime. Like I felt like we had been together in every lifetime, and it was that. And I didn't even know that that was a lens that you could look through.
I'm Emily Calloway, and this is Kismet. Kismet is a podcast featuring your true love stories. Today, I'm speaking with Genevieve Dreizen, who is sharing her story about a chance encounter in an art gallery in Scotland in 2010, and how giving this guy her Facebook information led to them reconnecting over a decade later and falling in love. Hello, Jenny. Thank you so much for joining me on Kismet today.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited that you responded to my random threads, reached out, and that we also figured out that we both went to NYU, which I think is an awesome Kismet connection in itself. But I loved hearing like a little bit about your story, and I'm so excited to dive in and sort of share that with everyone else because it's a big one. So to get started, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to everyone. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're doing with your life, all that good stuff.
So I am Jenny Dreizen. I am the co-founder and COO of Fresh Starts Registry, which is the world's first divorce registry platform, education guide, and resource guide for everything divorce, basically. And so it's kind of a funny thing that I'm here to talk about my marriage today, but it all's connected. I live in Edinburgh, Scotland with my husband, which is part of my story. And I am a middle daughter and who acts like an eldest daughter. And I've got 3 wonderful siblings and a phenomenal husband. And I just like to cook and bake and make things in my off time. So I'm not staring at a screen all the time, which, as Emily and I were talking about just now, I need to do less because I'm having a lot of eye issues right now. So I need to look at screens less. But that's me. I'm just, a Leo in the world, a former New Yorker in the world, and trying to figure it out one day at a time.
I'd love to just hear sort of your lead up before meeting your person, your husband. Sort of talk to me about your relationship with love. You did just sort of mention a little bit about your fresh starts. So it sounds like there's some good stuff there, but I'd love to sort of hear, how you felt about marriage, how you felt about soulmates or big loves or relationships in general.
Great question. So my parents met when they were 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
Or they met when they were 14, I should say. They met freshman year of high school. My mom was a lifer at the school. She'd gone kindergarten up. My dad came in for freshman year. She says that she just was like kind of annoyed by him like instantly, but also she says that she just had this sense that she was going to marry him and was really upset by this because she did not like him.
Oh my gosh.
But my mom's the youngest of 4, and her siblings were kind of grown and out of the house by then. My dad is the oldest of 7, but 6 at the time. And his family was really raucous and fun. And so when they got together when they were 16, they just sort of took her in. And so she spent a lot of time with the people that would become her in-laws. Like even in 1976 was like sleeping over at the house, she was one of the group. And they were together until I was 7. They broke up when they were about 36, which is fair, 20-year run. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, they were always friends. I never really saw a lot of love between them. I never saw a lot of affection between them. My dad slept in the playroom because my mom said he snored. He was, when my brother was born, he was the one that slept with the baby on his chest all the time. Very involved, both of them. When they broke up when I was 7. And my mom fell in love with my stepdad, who they're still together today. And I have to say, like, seeing that was like the first time I remember seeing like love and seeing like affection and seeing, I thought, to me when I was a kid, they were Gomez and Morticia. Like they were just like so in love with each other and so crazy about each other. And I will show you a picture of my stepfather. He's got like, he's Italian. He's got like the big eyes and he like looks like Gomez, which is why I say this. And so that was like definitely my first version of love that I was really seeing. And my grandparents are all divorced as well, but they
Wow.
all had partners. And my grandmother, who I stole the gallery wall idea from, and a lot of honestly her stuff. I have a lot of her stuff here on that wall too. She had been with my grandfather for a number of years, and then they broke up, and she ended up falling in love with the neighbor, and they never got married. But that was my Bob, and they were together until they both died. So like, I definitely saw it happen, but there was a lot of, they were together, and my grandfather had addiction issues, so then they weren't together, and so it was like things like that. It wasn't ever super easy for any of these people.
Yeah.
And then my first love was my best friend in high school, who has been with his boyfriend now for 20 years. So I think you can see where that went. But he was still like they came and visited, and we all spent the weekend together recently. It was great.
Yeah.
And then when I went to college, I ended up falling in love with a friend. Like, we became friends first, and then he went to Italy for a semester, and we fell in love like over Skype. And he came back, and I dated Peter for 3 years of college. And he's a great guy. He's a lawyer now, lives in the city, single, if anybody's looking, single. And we're still really good friends. I was just texting with him last night. It's been 20 years since we first started dating. It's a long time, but we were always friends first. So I went to college, and I think that I had this idea about love and about fatedness. And I think that's why I fell in love with my best friend, Audie, from high school. Because I was like, well, my mom met my dad in high school. We went to the same high school. Like, my aunt met my uncle there. My mom met my dad there. Like, and so when I walk in freshman year and there's this handsome Scottish Welsh looking guy, I'm like, yes, like, sign me up, right?
Yeah.
Like, it sounds good. And so I had this sort of idea of like fatedness and, inevitability. But I definitely had no idea what love should feel like, or what where love should sort of exist in your body. I don't think I ever gave soulmates too much thought, because I just was like, I just didn't know what I didn't know. What ended up happening after I graduated was I connected with a guy that I like kind of didn't really date in high school. And we were in a relationship for a year. And I always say, I'm like, I wish I just understood at the time that you could just like fool around with somebody and like not be in a relationship with them. And I kind of didn't. Like, I kind of was like, again, this idea of fatus. It was like, well, we went to high school together, and obviously we're meant to be together, and it's gonna, it's got to be the big thing. He didn't treat me super well. And I was just thinking about him because his wife is not unfamous, and I see her on Instagram on Threads a lot, and she's got such good takes on things, and I want to like interact with her content, but I can't, because it's like, I dated your husband, and we haven't, like, I just feel a little bit weird. I'm like, but you have really good takes on things. she's a very smart woman. And I hope he treats her better than he treated me. I hope so. They have 3 kids, so I hope so.
Yeah.
And so this takes us to 2010, where I'm dating this guy. It was not easy. Like, I always felt like I was this bottomless void of need, and I was with guys that, Peter was very good to me, and I understood that he was giving me a lot, but it was still never quite hitting, and I think that was emotional maturity that I needed. But this guy that I was dating was just like, I would say, do you love me? And he would say, yeah, and every time you ask makes me want to tell you less. Things like that, yeah. Or do you love me? Well, I'm here, aren't I? Things like that. So 2008 or something, my brother's applying to colleges. He's his own character, and he decides he doesn't want to have like a normal college experience. He applies to Oxford and Cambridge and St. Andrews. Doesn't get into Oxford and Cambridge. No surprise there. But he gets into St. Andrews. I mean, who gets into Oxford and Cambridge? Like, it's crazy. We were just excited he got waitlisted at Harvard, because it was like, my dad went to Harvard, and we were like, well, one of us has to get in at least, and he got waitlisted. That was as far as we got. And so he goes to St. Andrews, and my mom and I decide we're going to go visit. And I'm in the year after graduation, after I graduated from NYU, from our alma mater. And I didn't do anything that year. My sister and I had a blog, and I dated this guy. And that was really it. Like, I just kind of needed some time off. So from May to May, I didn't do anything, except I traveled with both of my parents. And so in March of 2010, my mom and I board a plane from Newark, and we fly to Edinburgh, and we take a car up to St. Andrews, and we go to St. Andrews for a couple of days. And then my brother, we're supposed to stay another day there, but like shockingly, my 18-year-old brother didn't really want to hang out with his mom and sister that much while he was in college. So my mom and I are like, okay, well, we'll go to Edinburgh for one day early. And we come down here from St. Andrews. And I remember I can tell you what day it was. It was March 4th, because it was the day before my best friend's, my Audie's birthday. It was March 4th. And I have the directions in my email of trying to get us to a particular museum here. And I remember my boyfriend at the time contacted me that night, and he was like, oh, I went to a party and I danced with a girl. And I was like, you did what? And I was so upset, and we spent the night fighting, and I was crying and fighting. We're up late, and I'm like, that was the whole relationship. It was like him saying that and then being like, why are you upset? I don't understand. Why are you, and fighting, and me being like, you don't dance with me. And he'd be like, well, you don't dance well. It's like, that's what am I doing? And so we get up that day and we go out, and my mom and I, like, we're trying to find where we're going. And now I understand that the place we were going was behind the place that we entered into. My mom is an artist and had been carrying around these postcards from an art show. And we walk into this gallery space, this museum space, up these beautiful stairs, beautiful columns. And there's two people sitting behind a table. There's a woman and a man. And the man is very good looking. And my mother, you should know, is gorgeous and blonde, perfect hair. Like, she was getting blowouts the whole time we were in Scotland.
Oh my gosh.
She was like every 2 days getting a blowout. It was amazing. She really finds the luxury. And so she's just like perfect and a flirt, which is where I learned to flirt from. And so she like strides right over to them, and she starts talking to them, and that's their job. Their job is to sit there and talk to us and tell us about the art. And she's talking to this guy, and I'm talking to the woman, and then she's talking to the woman, and I really could barely get words out around this guy. Like, he just had a certain look about him. I could barely get words out. And he's kind of trying to engage me. And my mom says, she's like, I kept looking at you being like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're never like this. And so, and meanwhile, like, I've been crying the whole night. I probably looked like all like vulnerable and like flush, right? Like my eyes were probably like, you know how it looks when after you've cried and it's kind of gotten better. And it's like weird makeup. And so I looked down, and he's writing on a pad of paper. And it was like, what are you writing? And he goes, oh, I'm working on some poems, and I write poetry. So I said, and I'm 22, mind you. I know nothing about the world. I have no knowledge of anything. Yeah. And so he goes, I'm writing poetry. And I was like, oh, I write poetry. And he goes, oh, that's really cool. And of course, he sees his opening, right? He goes, that's so cool. Maybe you know some competitions or something I could be in, or some magazines. And I said, yeah, for sure. I do. And, it was 2010. My mom had just gotten Facebook. So she's connecting with everybody on Facebook. Like, this is like, that 2010 was like when they let the moms in.
Oh, I went down. I remember.
It just all went downhill from there. And lots of parents on there. And so we all connected on Facebook, and my mom and I flew back to the States, and I remember I messaged him, because like, it's like that, it's like a danger thing, right? Like, you shouldn't touch the hot stove, but you want to touch the hot stove. Yeah. And I knew I had a boyfriend, but I also wanted to stay in touch with him, but I also wanted him to know I had a boyfriend, but I didn't, it's like, it's that complicated thing.
And your boyfriend was also dancing with another girl and told you about it. So
100%, which now, like, I laugh because I'm like, I think since then, like, we broke up not that long after, but like, I think about it now, I'm like, actually his dancing was like very not sexy. So it was like, I think in retrospect, I would have been like, it was very like prescriptive. And in retrospect, it should have been like, okay, have fun, weirdo. Like, you know,
he was probably so proud of himself. And that was obviously also insecurity. Like the fact that he told you, he's like, a girl danced with me and she thinks I'm cool. Like, whatever.
Yeah, 100%. 112 million %. Yeah. And so, you know, I came home and I sent him this message that I can see on my Facebook. Yeah. And it was like, you know, send the poems, dude, or something like that. And I think I gave him my email. And I maybe said something about my boyfriend, like, oh, my boyfriend and I are really excited to read your poems, which is like really shoving it in there, Genevieve. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you not elegant? This is not how we play. Or like how we like hold the like lineup. So he sent the poems and I read the poems and the poems were so good. And I was mortified. And I always want to say very clearly, when I say they were so good, I don't mean I'm married to him now and I thought they were good. Those poems went on to win awards that he got a significant amount of money for. Mm-hmm. They were really good. And I'm not just saying that. They're verified good. And so I was mortified and I just never answered his email. I just never answered it. I didn't respond to it, which is horrible. Somebody sends you poems. It's a very vulnerable act.
Yeah.
I just never.
Oh my gosh.
And so throughout the years, we had like little contact. Like my sister and I had this blog. And one year for Valentine's Day, we posted on our Facebooks, like, if you want a Valentine's Day card, we'll send you one. And he had emailed and was like, I'll be your Valentine. And I was like, of course I emailed back and I was like, oh, yours will be special. And I completely forgot about that. And then little things like he would write on my Facebook, like on pictures of me, like if I posted new pictures, he would often write things when he was like drunk and it was like 2 a.m. and then he would delete them like right after. It was like that kind of thing. And I remember leaving a date for this guy that's like, if you have a podcast about like crash and burn relationships, that would be another story. But talk about fate and Kismet, like I thought that was that. And I was leaving this date with this guy, John, and he was like, what are you looking at your phone for? And I was like, oh, this guy I met in Scotland once is like leaving comments and then deleting them rapidly from my pictures. Like and I was like, him, like, are you so like deleting like what is happening? Like I'm seeing the notifications. By the time I click on the notification, it's gone. Like what's going on? And so it was like that. And like every once in a while we would comment on each other's stuff. I always knew when he had a new girlfriend. They were always like gorgeous and accomplished and always not from Scotland. Never British or Scottish. They were always like Italian or Polish or something like that. And I always just would look at those pictures and be like, I could see that there was like something that he was bringing to the relationships that I was not getting in mine. Like I could just see the way he like put his arms around them or like, and it was also that time on Facebook when we were all sharing way more than we do now. Yeah. Right. We're like posting tons of pictures, like put like captioning things that were like wild and weird and stuff like that. And so he would like post stuff and I'd be like, this guy's like hot. Like, like well, this guy, like, I get it. This is wild. And so that all happened. And then in March, then I meet a guy or I reconnect with a guy I knew from a party at college and we start dating and, you know, very quickly over the course, I'll walk you through 10 years, we start dating, we get grown-up jobs, both of us, we end up working at the same company, we move in together, after 8 years we get engaged, we had a wedding planned for May 2020. So you can do the math. You can figure out what happened there. So COVID happens. I have my bridal shower the weekend before lockdown and COVID happens and cancels our wedding. And so I had planned with my wedding photographer to do wedding photo, to do like a FaceTime photo shoot. Right, like either the day of the wedding or we did like 2 different ones. So I can't remember which one was the day of the wedding, which one was like the day before the wedding. But so I did these photos where I'm wearing this $40 bridal gown that I bought, that I got off like, you know, not Shein, but like a Shein type website. Yeah. And I post this picture of me from the bridal shoot that happened on FaceTime and it was my 10-year anniversary with the man who I was engaged to at the time. And my Thomas, who's now my husband, messages me just to let me know that I look really good in that dress. And I respond to him and I was like, oh, thank you. My fiance is very, whatever. I like made it clear that I was engaged.
Yeah.
And he was very respectful. He was like, I mean, I guess he knew I was engaged. I was in a bridal dress, so I don't know why I felt I needed to tell him I was engaged. Like, I'm sure he knew.
So you said the FaceTime photo shoot was supposed to be the day before the wedding. So
it was, yeah. So like, I can't remember, like we didn't end up getting married, obviously.
Right.
But we did a FaceTime photo shoot, I think on the day of the wedding, which was supposed to be May 16th. With another photographer?
I understand now. So the wedding was pushed, but you still did what was going to be your original wedding.
Exactly. Yeah. So we did. So my ex and I did a shoot together over FaceTime with another photographer, but I did a shoot alone. That was like kind of like a sexy wedding shoot, like that wasn't boudoir, but it was like sexy, like bridal, like portraits.
Mm-hmm.
Some were sexy, some were not sexy. But like, and the idea was to have something to give to my fiance who really could have cared less about it. Just did not give a shit.
Yeah.
Did not give a shit. And so I post the picture on one of them as my Facebook photo. My Thomas reaches out and it is my 10-year anniversary with my then fiance that day. And it was honestly the most exciting thing that happened to me that day. And it was very funny because my ex was not a bad person, just not my person.
Yeah.
Very, very misaligned, of the lifestyle that we wanted to lead. It turned out it's hard to know when you're 23 what that lifestyle is. It's hard to know when you're 23 and nobody has any money too, right? You're like,
right.
I guess the lifestyle I'm leading is the lifestyle I want to lead because that's all I can do.
You grow, you said it was over 10 years. So from 23 to 33, you grow so much in your late 20s. And that's why, my parents didn't get married till they were in their 30s. And they sort of always put that on my brothers and myself. None of us, I'm not married yet. My brothers did not get married until one was in his early 30s. The other one was late 30s because you change so much. And I think it's very rare to meet somebody at 22 and still like want the same things and grow together a decade later.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like I always tell people this. I'm like, it is a season of rapid growth.
Yeah.
And unless you are growing together, like if you're growing apart, like that happens rapidly. It's definitely slows down once you hit like 32 and then it keeps slowing down, right? Because you know who you are more.
Right.
And so I couldn't agree with you more. And so yes, we just grew apart. We probably started apart more than we realized and grew apart. And he just wasn't my person. But he was also like never jealous. I don't think he believed I had any social capital to bring to him. And I think that he needed some social capital. And so he was never jealous of me and anybody. And it was funny because I told him, he was on the couch next to me. I'm like reading these Facebook messages to him.
Yeah.
And it was the only time I've ever seen him be jealous. And he was like, how does he know? Like, da, da, da. And I was teasing him and I was like, oh, can I use the joint Amex to like book a ticket to Scotland?
Yeah.
And he was like, he wasn't mad, but he was like, you could see it flustered him, which is funny because it's like, maybe he had a sense about it. I don't know. And so that was March. And I like have these great Marco Polos that I sent my girlfriends where I'm talking about it. And I'm like, this guy like Tom Laycock, like I'm saying in the video and everything. And telling them about it, you can see my face gets like flushed. I'm so excited to share this story because I think I was really underappreciated in that relationship.
Yeah.
And to feel seen and to feel flirted with and appreciated was really exciting.
Yeah.
And so that was March of 2021. Come June, my ex and I have a conversation. We realize the relationship is not working for us anymore and we break up. And I leave the apartment, which leads to us founding the company and everything like that. And I go back to my mom's house and I'm like, who can I flirt with?
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been in a relationship for 10 years. Who'd I leave on red 10 years ago? Like, who can I flirt with? And so you start putting out the little feelers.
Right.
And one of the people, I was like, this will be fun, right? He's got a great accent. And of course, my husband is like,
he's not dangerous because he lives in Scotland. It's not like he's like next block over.
Right, exactly. He's not dangerous. But I always laugh because my husband's like, how did you not know I wasn't Scottish? Because he's not Scottish. He's English, but he lives in Scotland. I'm like, I met you once 10 years ago. You think I remember your accent? Like, you think I was smart enough to be able to discern between the accents? Like, I was a dumb 22-year-old. And so I was like, this will be fun. So I messaged him and I was like, I ended my engagement. And he was like, why did you do that? And I told him why. And he was really sweet. And then and he's like, well, if you ever want to talk or whatever, like, he was like, I do like you. I think you're gorgeous, but like, I just want to be a friend, whatever. And then a couple days later, I'm at Target. I had decided I was having this like really hard time finding an apartment. And by that, I mean, I think I spent 3 days looking for an apartment and I was panicked. Like, it's like when you're in that moment, you're like, everything's horrible. And I decided that I needed to buy towels because I was going to need towels no matter where I went. So towels like grounded me to the reality that my life was going to move forward.
Yeah.
Which is funny given what I do now, right? And so I'm at Target and I get a message from him on Facebook and it's the Valentine's Day card that I'd sent to him.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Almost 10 years previous. He was moving into the apartment that we're in now. So he was moving out of a place that he'd been at for a decade. And he was like, I'm throwing away everything and I'm going through everything and look what I just found. And I was like, that I had no memory of sending it. And it said like sealed with a kiss on it. And it was like, very,
yeah.
It was so weird. And so then like a couple of days later, we start talking more and more. And then we get on the phone like 2 days later and we're on the phone and I really wanted him to know how much I liked him. He was on furlough because of COVID. So he's just like not working. Like he's just home all the time available to chat with me. And so I wanted him to know how much I liked him. So I booked a ticket to Scotland after 2 days of talking. And yeah, exactly. And it was for 2 weeks in 2 weeks. So it was right around, I think I booked it on June 28th. So I was going to fly out on like July 12th and I was going to fly back on my birthday, July 31st. And I would have had to quarantine for 10 days in this apartment with him, which by the way, he was moving into on July 1st. It was a really bad plan.
Yeah. And I mean, so you've talked for 2 days and you're like, I'm going to go and not only spend 2 weeks, but spend 2 weeks in this guy's apartment that I haven't met.
It's a horrible plan. Yeah. Yeah. And so my mom this whole time had been like, oh, give me the updates about this guy. Like, this is so romantic. This is so great. And so now it's like, it's probably after midnight in my parents' house and they're night owls. And I walk downstairs because mind you, I'm staying in my mom's house while I'm looking for an apartment. And I walked downstairs and I was like, guys, guess what I just did? And I tell them. And my stepfather, who's Italian American, goes, you did what? Never yelled at me in my life. My mother's like, he's going to murder you. And I was like, what? I'm like so confused by everybody's reactions. Like, no, this is romantic. You guys, Morticia and Gomez, romantic,
Yeah.
And they're like, and I said, and it was actually the first time I ever said to my mom, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to take it into advisement. I'm not just going to cancel the ticket because you say to cancel it. I'm going to think about it. And I thought about it and I was like, girl, this is crazy. This is crazy. And the problem was I thought to myself, well, what if he's mad at you for canceling? And then I thought to myself, oh, it's a really bad idea to go to a foreign country with somebody because they might be mad at you. And I thought, if I took a pair of tweezers and pluck this guy right out of my life would be exactly the same. Who cares if he's mad at me?
Right.
Like, and I had to have all of that thought to grow up.
That's a very rational way of thinking about things, like very level-headed.
I really had to like talk myself through it like very slowly. And so I called him and by now it's like 2 a.m. New York time, which means it's like 7 a.m. Scotland time. And we had probably gotten off the phone maybe 2 hours previous, right before I went downstairs. So he's barely been asleep. It's, it's 7 a.m. He went to sleep at 5, and I call him and he answers. And I said, I think I have to cancel my ticket. And he was relieved. He was like, because I booked it, like, I didn't ask him if I should book it. I was like, look what I did. Like, we were like on the phone and I did it. By the way, it was more than it was double the price that I've ever paid for a ticket. It was an insane choice. But I needed to do it, I think, to prove to myself that I could be a little wild.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay. He's like, why do you need to cancel it? And I said, well, I don't think it's very smart. I think it's a little dangerous. And he said, well, I always want you to feel safe with me. And I said, okay. And he said, we'll get there when we get there. And I canceled the ticket. And I walked down the stairs, my mom's house, and I sat on the stairs. And my mom came out of her bedroom. The stairs were like right there. And she's like, what's going on? And I said, I canceled it. And she said, how did he react? I said, he was lovely. And she goes, oh, you're screwed. She goes, you're screwed.
Oh my God. I love that.
So we spent the next 3 months talking every day. Because again, he's not working. So it's great.
Yeah.
I have him all to myself. And he also has a heart defect. So he's like being very careful. He's not leaving the house. And so we talk every day for 3 months. We were, WhatsApping all day. And then every night we would talk on Skype for hours. Sometimes 1 hour, sometimes 6 hours. Like, it just depended on everybody's energy levels. He would like pretty much sit with me while I ate dinner every night, and we would hang out. And he was the one, I would like had him on FaceTime when I was like moving stuff into my apartment. Like, it was like that. And and then come October, like, I think it may be like August, I was like, okay, I think I can book a ticket. I think I think it's like we've gotten to know each other enough. And so I booked a ticket for October 1st, and I flew out October 1st, and I flew back October 14th. And I just remember, I literally didn't know your knees could knock. Like, I didn't know that, like, when you were nervous, your knees could knock. And I had bought a new suitcase because, one, my suitcase that I had wasn't big enough, but I'd also bought it with my ex. And I was like, I don't want to bring that with me.
Energy.
So I bought
Yeah,
I bought this new red suitcase. And I remember just standing there in the Edinburgh airport waiting for it to come out and being like, and looking at myself in the mirror. I had to transfer in Amsterdam, and looking at myself in the mirror and being like, who is this girl that has flown to Scotland, is going to fly to Scotland for this? Like, that as we mentioned, I'm from Long Island. I went to NYU and I lived in Queens. Like, I had traveled, but I'd never done anything crazy. I'd never like done anything for love. And I remember coming out and like walking out of the airport, and I always tell him, like, you looked, he looked not smaller, but like more delicate to me than he's ever looked again that day coming out in the airport. Like, because he was nervous. Like, he was nervous too. We both were. And I saw him, and he just looked fragile to me. And now it's funny.
Vulnerable.
He's like my tank of a man. Yeah, vulnerable. And he had a coffee for us. He bought a coffee that we were going to share. And I remember just thinking, like, we're sharing a coffee. And it was, I watch 90 Day Fiancé now, and I see people that are like, they fly in and they're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to kiss him. Like, we kissed, like, off the plane, kissed. Like, it was like, go from that moment. And, came to this apartment. Like, he brought me here, and I stayed for 2 weeks. By that point, quarantine was different, so I didn't have to quarantine for 10 days. I think it was just until I had to do a COVID test, and it was a lot better. And it was just ever since then, and ever since really ever since I booked the ticket and then canceled it, it was just very clear that, like, it was just whatever the next right step was what we were going to do. And I came, I was so nervous he was going to propose that trip, because I was like, I will say yes.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
And I was like, people will be like, you've been engaged to 2 men within 6 months. Like, that's a lot. But I was like, I will. And he didn't, luckily. I think he knew enough for a lot of, he knew enough. And I came back in January for 3 weeks. And then we went to the islands for a week with my dad and a couple of my siblings. And then we were like, I can be here for up to 6 months. So, I gave my apartment, my lease was up in June. I sold all of the stuff that I had just bought a year previous.
Yeah.
And all of it, except for if anybody wants a double mattress and lives on Long Island, please contact me. And it's in storage. And I came for 6 months, and it was funny. I was just telling somebody the other day, like, you think like, oh, I'll come for 6 months. It'll be like living together and it'll be like real life. And like, it was definitely more like real life than 2 weeks. Right.
Yeah.
But when you come back and you're like, oh no, we were still on holiday, like for 6 months, we were still living like we were on holiday. And then at the end of the 6 months, like right at the end, he proposed. And so I went back to New York and I did my visa. And I was able to come back here in May of 2023 and came back, and we had to plan a wedding, in 6 months, and we eloped because I was like, I've already planned a wedding. Didn't have costume. I do not enjoy wedding planning. And we eloped on the beach in September of 2023. And yeah, it's going to be 3 years marriage soon. It's crazy.
Going back to when you first reconnected and we're talking on a daily basis and stuff. Yeah. What I think is really interesting and special is that you both were sort of trusting the process and in it equally. There's a lot of people that one person could be the one that's sort of like, I'm fresh out of this relationship. I'm, ready to experience the world, and like, I'll go to Scotland and have this big love. And he could be kind of like, pushing back on it, not really there, open to the sort of fun of it all, but not like emotionally there.
Yeah, I think that, somebody once asked me if they thought my ex, like while I was with my ex, they were like, do you really think he loves you? And it was a really traumatizing, hard conversation that was inappropriate for that person to have with me. But I remember being like, yeah, I mean, I think like, of course he does. And I think what my husband has always made very clear was his intentions and the way he feels about me. And I needed that. Like I can't have any lack of clarity. And I think that he made it very easy for me to feel safe. And he does that every day. And I think you're right. Like we were from the start, we were both like, let's throw our hearts at this. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I had an aunt that my sweet Aunt Jane, who's been with her husband since they met in high school, said to me, like, just protect your heart. And I said to her, no, I want to throw my heart on the rocks. Like, I want to feel all of this because I think that part of being with my ex was that it was very safe.
Yeah.
And that was neither, it was like nothing was ever too intense. And what I didn't know was that when love is really there, you feel it, like, you know it. You're not like wondering or questioning. And also when love is really there, it doesn't require intense negativity to be intensely wonderful. I think I always thought that there had to be some sort of like karmic balance of like, it has to be bad for it to be good. And so if you want the passion, you have to have the fighting. And I didn't want that. I didn't want the fighting. Yeah. So I was willing to lose the passion. And that's not true. Like, that's just not my reality. And I want people to hear that, like, because I so often see like, I'd rather be fighting with you than, no, you actually don't have to do that. Like, you can actually just be with somebody and think they're great and adore them and love each other. And there doesn't have to be like a negative emotional aspect to that at all. Yeah. And so I think, yes. And to my husband, to my Thomas's, I was going to say, to my husband's credit, he is 9 years older than me. He has done a lot of work on him, like he meditates regularly. Like he's very in tune with himself, and he's, been through relationships and he's tried different things. And I credit him a lot. Like, if we had, when I was 22 and he was 31, tried something, it wouldn't have worked out. We both needed to grow up a lot, Yeah. And so coming to each other at this time, like, the timing was right. And you asked about soulmates before, and I think the feeling that I felt with him was, there you are. And I felt like we had done this in every lifetime. Like, I felt like we had been together in every lifetime, and it was that. And I didn't even know that was a lens that you could look through.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. It gave me chills. I'm interested to sort of hear what he's told you from his perspective over that decade plus that you know, since that 20 minutes that you met each other when you randomly stumbled into his gallery to the point that you reconnected. Like, obviously he kept, you know, trying over the years to engage with you. So I'm just kind of curious if he'd like sort of fallen in love with you from afar. It sounds like you're somebody that, you know, with a blog, with having sort of an internet presence, you know, maybe he had more of a opportunity to see who you were as a person and like sort of fall in love with you from that perspective, or if it was just sort of like, this is this really pretty girl, she seems cool. I'm just kind of curious if he's ever shared that with you.
Yeah, I think that we definitely both had crushes on each other, and I think that we both were very compelled by what the other was doing. He tells me he thought I was some sort of like New York socialite. I'm like, okay, well, I'll take that. He was like, I thought you were like a rich girl from New York that like, you know, just went around and like did stuff and like have, you know, whatever. So, which is funny because it's like not. I'm like, well, I can see how you would think that, but it's not accurate. And
your mother did get blowouts every 2 days.
In Scotland. That's true. I wouldn't say I'm not a New York socialite. No, definitely not that. But, you know, I did go to NYU. My mom always laughs because when I applied to NYU, she was talking to my grandmother, her ex-mother-in-law, and she was like, I mean, she's a Jewish girl from Long Island. Of course she'll get into NYU. And my grandmother was like, all the Jewish girls on Long Island want to go to NYU. Do you understand that? My mom was like, oh my God, she might not get in. So yeah, like it wasn't inaccurate, but it was, you know, it was also. And I think he said he always detected like a real sweetness in me and like a real like caring, and he like, you know, would see I've got 2 nephews that I adore, and he would see those pictures, and like he just always had a tenderness towards me, and he always felt really protective towards me, even though he really he knew he had no right. Like he just and that's how I felt proprietary over him. I'd be like, you know, almost like you would feel about like your camp boyfriend, right? Like, oh look, like Dave's got a new girlfriend, and it's like, you know, you're happy for Dave and a little jealous of his girlfriend, but like you kind of have all those feelings. That's how I think we felt about each other, like as if it had happened already, and it hadn't. And so yeah, he was definitely had his eye on me over the years, but had some slightly erroneous ideas.
I think it's so great that you did not go when you originally booked that ticket, because you had 2 days and maybe it still would have been the same. Maybe you would have gone and it would still have been that connection, but you didn't have that. I think those 3 months of really like getting to know each other deeper, like really being open, because if you'd gone after 2 days, let's say you went after 2 days, my feeling is that vulnerability would not be so present. It would be a little bit more, you're reserved. You don't know what the person's in there for. Like there's not this sort of follow through that's been happening, consistency. And so, you know, you're going to be a little bit more closed off when after 3 months, you kind of know like, okay, this person's consistently showed up for me. We've been sharing 100%. Each other's days and stuff. And so there is more of a like, okay, we're in it. Like we're 100% in.
Yes. And it's funny. Well, so a couple of things. I think it would have rushed a physical relationship in probably a way that, again, who knows, right? Maybe I'd be sitting here telling the exact same story.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe I would never talk to him again. I can't tell you. But also, I was coming out of a 10-year-long relationship. I needed to not rush into a physical relationship with somebody else. And so it kind of did this funny thing where like, yes, I was falling in love with somebody, but also most of my days were by myself and I was doing a lot of thinking. I also would go out for walks by myself and just be like, am I falling in love with the man or am I falling in love with the story? Because it's a great story that I'm going to tell one day on many podcasts, right? But which am I falling in love with? And I think those 3 months let me know, no, you're falling in love with this guy. And I spent so much time by myself. And it's funny, I was saying to him the other day, I calculated the first year of our relationship, we spent 6 weeks together in person. right? Only 6 weeks together in person from June to June, which is pretty wild. Like, and I think that says a lot. Like, and we built something from those 6 weeks that we were together. And I really couldn't have expected. I mean, I knew that we had this chemistry when I met him, but I didn't know what the chemistry was going to be like. And I was so scared that I was going to show up and he was just going to like smell wrong. You know, somebody can just smell wrong.
Yeah.
And so I was so terrified of that. And that obviously didn't happen. When we were first together and talking to each other, I was like, well, I don't want you to say that you love me until I get to the airport. And we ended up, and I was like, because that's weird. You can't say you love somebody, which is funny because like, it's followed a very similar trajectory to my college relationship with Peter. Yeah. Like we were like, you know, talking on Skype every day. And so I'm like, I've done this before, actually. You can do that. And we ended up saying I love you before I got to the airport. But we ended up saying I love you before I took off in October. And then now I think, well, it would be weird for me to go spend 2 weeks with somebody who I wasn't in love with, like at that level, right? Like it's an intense thing to do. And to spend, I mean, he took off all 2 weeks and we were together every single minute of every single day. I mean, it was really intense. And we also, mind you, we were in one bedroom, right? Like it was, you know, we're in this apartment, but there was a roommate, there was a flatmate here. So we had one bedroom, you know, he cooked every meal for me. I made coffee like once, like, you know, it was an intense experience. And now I'm like, how could we have done that and not been in love? Like, and so it needed its time. And I think the hardest thing in life is to just give things time. Like that's a barrier that you cannot supersede. And I'm very grateful. And I think I really needed to, I always say like I flirted with being a codependent. And so like that thought of like, well, what if he's mad at me? What if this stranger is mad at you? I needed to have that thought. I needed to go through that moment of going, you could pick this guy out of your life. Your life would be you wake up tomorrow. The only different thing would be that his number wouldn't be in your phone anymore. And it's only been there for 2 days. Like he doesn't matter to you. And I think I had to like realize that because I've carried that with me, that lesson with me throughout everything else, you know, through the rest of it.
So I'd love to hear, you've shared a little bit through the course of this about how he showed up differently, but I'd just love to hear sort of like what your relationship compared to those ones that didn't work out before, like what is different about him other than this connection? What is different about this relationship and how he makes you feel safe and seen?
First of all, I always say to people, like, you can be with somebody who's like you and who likes you. And I feel like my husband, we really like each other. We obviously adore each other, but we really just like hanging out together. And I think the thing that I was surprised by is how much we just want to live life in the same way. We like the same kind of food. We want to sort of wake up at the same time. We both aren't breakfast people. Like all of these things that seem really silly that make it just a very easy life to live together. But, you know, he also made it, Thomas is a poet, right? And he's a musician and he's good at putting things to words and he's a playwright and he's a writer and all these things. And so he's just always made it very clear, like, you know, one of the things I struggled with in my last relationship was that I felt like everything was a worthiness test. I felt like I was always fighting for love. And I was. I was. And everything was a worthiness test. And I was very clever to figure that one out. And he just has made it very clear to me that, like, there's like nothing that I have to do except exist to be worthy of his love. Like, I am. And he sees me very clearly in a way that is occasionally uncomfortable because you're like, there was something that happened recently and I was telling him a story and he was like, and then I bet you did da-da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, I didn't know that anybody could quit. Like, I was like, I would like to hide now. That's a little too much. And so he sees me very clearly and I him. And so I think we both just feel very safe in that and very seen and very, you know, our senses of humor are very similar. Our references are shockingly very similar. Like we have a lot of similar like pop culture references, but I think mostly he's not afraid to say the things that are, you know, he knows are hard for me. He wants to protect me and to take care of me and to love me. And, one of the things that I used to burn out a lot about when I was in my previous relationship was that I sort of did all of the domestic labor. And I cooked all the meals and I took care of everything. And, he's very clear that that's not something that he would ever allow to happen. And he's just a very proactive partner in all of those ways. And actually, I'm in a place right now where I'm really enjoying cooking. And I'm like, actually, the hardest thing for me right now is that work is getting in the way of me getting into the kitchen. And, he's always like, yes, but like, let me, like, please, like, I don't want you to burn out on this. Like, we have a sort of whoever cooks doesn't clean arrangement. And he's just very, forward thinking and making sure that I'm protected and taken care of. And it's so funny to me because I wouldn't even move to like Cold Spring, New York with my ex, which is like just outside of Manhattan for people that aren't aware, just outside of, the city, because I didn't want to leave Long Island because I didn't want to I didn't feel like I was taken care of emotionally in that way to just be off of the physical island of Long Island.
Yeah.
And I've moved to Scotland and I've never worried about somebody loving me or taking care of me or making me laugh or wanting to spend time with me. It's always felt really easy. And Emily and I were talking about this before we recorded, but I've had a lot of issues with my eyes. And a lot of these issues happened right in the last month before I moved here. And I would have to drive 40 minutes to get these procedures done on my eyes where I couldn't drive back. And so my stepfather would take me and I would get into the car after. And I should say, my stepfather and my ex were really good friends. They really liked hanging out together. And my stepfather had a lot of fun with him and they would go do, guy things together. And I felt really bad when I broke up with him because I felt like I took my stepfather's pal away. And my stepfather was always like, I don't care. He was like, he doesn't treat you nice. He's out. Like, I don't give a shit. And I would get in the car after these eye appointments and I'd be like puffy eyes because they would do these things to my eyes. I couldn't see anything. And I would call Thomas and I would have him on speaker and I would be filling him in. And I could see that my stepfather felt I would get off the phone and he'd be like, he wants to take care of you. Like you can tell he wants to take care of you. And I know that all of my parents feel very like calm having me here because they know that I'm like looked after and it's reciprocal, right? Like I look after him, he looks after me. We take care of each other. We take great care of each other. And I think that I think a lot of it, Emily, you asked specifically like what is here? Appreciation, like affirmation, like the expression of love, freely. Nobody's trying to be too cool.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's a lot of like, I'm obsessed with you. I'm obsessed with you. It's just like, nobody's trying to be cool ever. And my husband would say, he'd be like, I'm cool. And he is cool. He's the coolest. But
I've always said that I want somebody that wants to take care of me in return because I am someone that I'm very independent. I'm used to taking care of myself. I'm used to not asking for help. But having someone that wants to show up and like that does cook, does do some of the domestic chores, like does want to show up for you and be generous.
Yes.
Giving of their time, giving of their energy, giving of their love, giving of their affection. Like that is so important. And I don't think I could be happy with somebody that was not doing that. Like if I think they would just take and take and take. I've been in relationships like that where everything was taken and there was no reciprocation. And I just ended up like, even if I cared very deeply about the person, ended up feeling very underappreciated and unhappy in the long run because I'm like, what? Yes. I have done everything. I just wanted you to like, show up in the same way for me and you can't, or you're not willing to.
100%. And I think that the problem with takers is that they don't know that they are, and they will just take until you've got nothing left to give. I relate to that exactly. Like you have to be with, somebody that you both have to be giving 100%. Yeah. Because and you just can't be with somebody that's just willing to let you take care of them till the end of time because they will always let you take care of them. I have 2 stories about flowers that came up today, literally today. So about being taken care of. And it's still hard for me. It's still very hard for me to, allow myself to be taken care of. And my husband and I were looking at a beautiful bouquet of flowers that somebody got me. This huge bouquet that's in a window bay. And they've been there since Christmas and they're dried at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, those flowers are going to be really messy to clean up. And I said, I know. I said, the flowers are from somebody and I can't deal with them. I can look at them, but I don't even want to touch them. Like they carry too much charge for me. And I said, I know, I can't even touch them. I said, I guess we can put them in the middle, bring them to the middle of the floor. And when they fall apart and break apart, we can just vacuum it up. I said, but I don't even want to touch them. And he said, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even occur to me that he could, like, it didn't even occur to me that somebody else would just take care of it.
Yeah.
Like it's just so often always been on me and he was like, I'll do it. Like, it wasn't a big deal because not a big deal for him. And I was like, oh my God, and then I was laughing because, I went to the market today and they had these beautiful peonies and they had peonies a couple weeks ago, but they haven't had a new color and they had a new color of peonies. So I bought them and they said, did you see, I bought us flowers. I bought the house new flowers. I refreshed the flowers in the hallway. Mm-hmm. And my husband was like, yeah, he was like, I did see, he's like, I heard you snipping them. I heard, I thought you got new flowers. And he said, you have to give me a chance to get you flowers soon again, which he does. He just brings them home. And I said, I will. But I said, I have to tell you that the difference in knowing somebody's not going to get you flowers. So you go, I can buy myself flowers.
Right.
I can buy myself flowers.
Yeah.
And the difference in going, I'm refreshing the flowers in our house. Those are like a world away, right? Like, because I bought the flowers today because I like having flowers in our house, not because I was like, if you're not going to appreciate me, I'll appreciate myself, which is, how it used to come. Yeah. And so I just like, that's sort of the energy shift, I would say.
I love that. And I do, but I also love that he shows up and says, I want to buy you flowers. Because I think so often as women, we minimize our needs and we feel like we're taking up too much space and asking for too much, So like, I mean, in past relationships, like I just did everything. And I was the caring one. I gave, planned dates because they wouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
I cooked dinners because they wouldn't, I would do things because I still wanted, the relationship or whatever, but it just wasn't equal at all in terms of effort. And I'm never doing that again. Like that is one of the reasons why I'm single, because I am never, ever doing that again.
No, never, ever. And it's how I ended up with a ring that wasn't cheap for him to buy, an engagement ring that wasn't cheap for my ex to buy, but I ended up selling for $70 because I was like, I don't need much, like that's how you end up with that. And so it's way better to be solo and just loving your girlfriends and hanging out than to be somebody's mom and be getting 100%. Nothing in return.
100 million%. And that's something that I would say that as I moved into my 40s, like that has been a shift for me, I think, really just sort of showing up differently and understanding like it's okay to want love. Like I want a partnership, but at the same time, I want it to be like what you're sharing. I want it to be an equal partnership where someone is giving as much to me as I'm giving to them. And it's not about the financial part of it. It's about the effort and the, investment and the caring and the like seeing a need and seeing like, hey, she's having a hard day. Like I'm cooking dinner today. I'm going to surprise her with her favorite meal or something like that because we do that. Like women do that. So
women do that. I mean, I was once on a podcast about your day and she was like, well, how do you and your husband arrange groceries? And I was like, it occurred to me that for the first time in my life, he just knew what was in the fridge. He also knows what's in the fridge. Like I don't have to be like, this is what we need. He's just an equal member of this household. And it's a very different. It's very different.
I love that. And you're not writing out the to-do list, being a mom.
Nope. No, exactly. I don't have to be mom. The other day I said something to him. We were talking about something and I was like, well, I know. I accidentally turned the gas off and everything was bad for a while. And I was like, I created this problem and now, And I was like crying. I was upset. And he was like, why are you upset? He was like, I don't mind calling the landlord. Like, we're in this together. And I was like, because it's my job to make your life easier. And he was like, no, you don't have a job when it comes to me. Like, that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. That's weird. I guess I can work on accepting that.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I think it's definitely shifting. And I think we're seeing that like on a large scale right now. Like women are starting to step into a little bit more power. But I think for so long, there was the societal sort of pressure to you won't like me. I want to make you like me. You're in the power seat, man. You chose me, and I'm gonna make you love me by doing these things for you.
Right. Making your life easy, not asking where you are, not asking why you're at your coworker's house until 4 a.m.
Right.
I'm just gonna be super cool, and I'm gonna make sure that you have everything that you need, and I'm gonna cook exactly the way that you like, even though I don't like it, and and I'm gonna go on the trips that you like, and you want to go hiking, let's go hiking. All of these things, and I'm just like, I think we get to a point where we know who we are, and if we've gone through the work, we're like, I don't want to do that. I mean, I never want to go camping again.
Right.
And I don't have to. I don't have to.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, I'm sure if you were with a partner who that was their thing, camping, then you would switch off and you would do camping, but they would also have to do something that you really love to do too. And that's the flip side, because a lot of times it's not equal from that perspective.
Do it in the way that my husband and I have talked about it, and he's like, well, if we went camping, I would too. Like, I would take care of you. I wouldn't expect anything
or
of you.
like make a,
But like, I have a lot of hiking trauma from my previous relationship, and it wasn't quite an alpine divorce situation, but he would hike away from me with the water, and he would be like, well, you don't hike fast enough, like things like that. And so actually on our honeymoon, well, it wasn't really a honeymoon, but it was just a week after our wedding, we decided to go on a hike, and we've been trying to go on this hike for, I'm not kidding, a year. And every time that we went on this hike, we would try to go on the hike, I shockingly wouldn't sleep the night before, probably because I was so anxious. Yeah. And one of the things that I now understand about hiking in Scotland versus hiking in the East Coast is that it's more just like walking up a hill, which is great. It works for me. I don't like I don't like going in New Hampshire, and it's like, you're going to get lost and die. That's not fun for me. Yeah. And so we went on this hike, and I had a panic attack at the start. My husband completely talked me down. And then, we go on the hike, and his shoes broke, literally his hiking boots fell apart. So they were talking to us, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And it was such a great experience, because it was just oh, it can be fun. Yeah. It can be fun. It can be with a person, and it doesn't have to be until you're out of breath. And, we went on I wouldn't even call it a hike, but there's an old, boulder in the city called Arthur's Seat, and you can walk up it and see a good view of the city. And he took me my first visit here, and he was like, you keep doing this thing where you sprint up the hill, you walk really fast, and then you're out of breath, and then you have to wait and catch your breath. He was like, why don't you just try walking slower? And I was like, I don't know how to do that.
I'm a New Yorker.
I was like, I don't know how to do that.
We don't walk slow in New York.
But I have to get the hill out of the way as quickly as possible, because I hate it. Don't you understand? Yeah. He was like, the whole walk is a hill, so you better And so he took my hand, and my ex never even hiked next to me. Nonetheless, held my hand while we were hiking. So he takes my hand, he steps right in front of me, and he paced me up the mountain, up the thing. And he said, this is to be enjoyed, not endured. Why are we doing this if you're enduring it? If you're, just hating it the whole time. And that's sort of been the motto of our life, is to be enjoyed, not endured. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. So you've given so much good insight during the course of this conversation, so many good things to pull out from it. But any sort of last advice that you would give to all of these singles out there?
I really think that you if you look to be with somebody who you are in non-obvious ways, right? My husband is 9 years older than me, grew up in Scotland, very different childhood than I have, but we're alike in our personalities and our souls, and somebody that you really like. We say opposites attract, but I think you have to decide if you want to be in that for the rest of your life, pushing against an opposite. And you can just be where like love is, like run towards what's running towards you. Take your time, think a lot about what the experience that you're having is. And I don't know. I just know that it's better. I've been happier alone than I have been sitting next to somebody that I feel alone next to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just hearing you talk about the prior relationships and then this one, like I can understand, but sometimes you have to go through those experiences to really, be willing to take that big risk and when it comes around and be open to that. So, I love having you on. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours, but thank you again for just sharing so openly about your experiences and your love. And it's a great story. And, it's stories like yours. I'm going to be honest. I am like now I have to like actually take myself down a level because every time I meet someone, I'm like, is this it? Like, I'm like, should I invest? And I mean, I met someone recently. We'll say that in the moment I'm like so caught up in it and they don't live here, they live elsewhere. And so, I was like so caught up in it and I was like, should I go fly out and see this person? And then now, I mean, I don't know. I'm not thinking it's the same sort of situation as yours, but I'm now such a believer. I'm such a romantic at heart that like, listen, for the right person, I'll do whatever. So
you know what though? Like it's like, what's the harm? Like, like what's the worst case scenario? Like if experience is your goal, then like nothing can be bad.
Right.
As long as you're safe, right? Like,
right.
That's what we say. Like, like I've always say to my other girlfriends, like, as long as you're safe, as long as you know how to get out of things, if you get into them, what's the harm? Try it. Like, and especially like if you have like a solid like grounding with your friends and your family and you have a place to go back to, like, so you try it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, you really don't know unless you try. I mean, it could have gone disastrously for me, and and sometimes it does. Like we hear about other women where it does, but
right.
I don't know.
I do think that that's a good mentality to have. Like this particular, it's a different situation, obviously, but I would probably go with a friend, stay separately, and then like, coordinate or whatever. So it would be that.
Like a smart person instead of moving into their apartment for 2 weeks like I did. Insane.
Well, listen, it worked out. I think, it's also different. I've done that too, by the way. I had someone that I dated in my late 20s that lived in New York, and I went and stayed a week with him as well. So it worked out in the short term, did not work out in the long term. But in the short term, I was like, I left that trip feeling about like how you did, like very smitten and very, very happy. But unfortunately, the distance at that time was too much for us. But this, this sort of situation, I don't know. I think my reluctance is more, I think ego is still a problem a little bit, and like putting myself out there and like, well, what will this person think I'm crazy even though they invited me? Like if I actually go, and like, what does that mean? And like, what is the expectation and what does that look like? And there's always this sort of, fear. So I'm working through that piece of it too, where it's like, what is real and worth investing and taking the trip in? What am I willing to let go of to just have a great time or, whatever. So
I feel like you asked this question sort of before too, and I answered some other stuff. But one of the things I think that really helped us was that very early on when we were chatting, it was like very like almost like sparring, like verbal sparring. It was like a Humphrey Bogart movie. Like that's kind of the back and forth we were having.
Yeah.
And then at certain points, one of us would be like, okay, breaking character for a minute. And we'd be like, I really like, and we would like get really like earnest and genuine.
Yeah.
And I think it helped us because like we learned pretty quickly, like, oh, I can be earnest and genuine with you and you're not going to laugh at me or avoid or become anxiously avoidant or something like that. And I think you have to be, because that's really what a real relationship requires is like an earnest, cringy sort of genuineness that I think a lot of people want to avoid.
I'm so here for that. Like, as long if it's not love bombing, like if it's like real, feels like earned and connected. Like I am someone that can be all in very quickly, but I also am extremely intuitive. So if it's a little bit off, then I shut down and I get the ick, and I'm like, I can't. Like, don't. You know.
No,
don't do
And
that.
I think that we like have to realize, like, even before it gets love bombing, you can be like, I don't know you very well, but I'm really interested in getting to know you, right? Like that's a really like genuine thing to say to somebody. That's not like, I love you and you're the only person I've ever loved, right? Like,
right, exactly.
Like, hold off.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jenny, tell everyone how they can connect with you to learn more about, your platform and what you're doing.
Yeah. So you can find me pretty much everywhere as Genevieve Dreizen, which I'm sure you'll link to because it's a long, hard to spell name. I did not change my last name when I got married because that one's not any easier. So Genevieve Dreizen on Instagram. You can also find me at Jenny Dreizen, Jenny with a J. And you can find me, which might be the easiest way to find me, at freshstartsregistry.com, the first and only divorce registry platform. If you go to the About section, you can link to all of my socials and email me at jenny@freshstartsregistry.com. And if you're navigating divorce or you know anybody that's navigating divorce and they need a little support, please reach out.
I love that. And, I know that there are people that are listening right now that are going through divorce, have recently split with somebody, looking for love again. So I think your story provides inspiration and your platform provides resources. So I really appreciate it. So thank you again for joining today and have a great weekend.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Kismet. If this resonated with you, please give us a like or comment or subscribe, as it really does help. If you have your own Kismet story you'd like to share, please send it to me at kismetstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, be bold, be kind, and be open to everyday magic. Your person may be just down the street, or they may be someone you met years ago, hanging out in the background of your Facebook feed.